love unchanging and true. I can give you the ocean, deep and tender devotion.
I had been right about the strengthening effect on the character of the vicissitudes to which I had been subjected since the clocking in at the country residence of Sir Watkin Bassett. Little by little, bit by bit, they had been moulding me, turning me from a sensitive clubman and boulevardier to a man of chilled steel. A novice to conditions in this pest house, abruptly handed the news item which I had just been handed, would, I imagine, have rolled up the eyeballs and swooned where he sat. But I, toughened and fortified by the routine of one damn thing after another, which constituted life at Totley Towers, was enabled to keep my head and face the issue. I don't say I didn't leave my chair like a jackrabbit that has sat on a cactus, but having risen, I wasted no time in fruitless twitterings. I went to the door and locked it. Then, tight-lipped and pale, I came back to Jeeves, who had now taken the helmet from the suitcase and was oscillating it meditatively by its strap. His first words showed me that he had got the wrong angle on the situation. "It would be wiser, sir," he said with a faint reproach, "to have selected some more adequate hiding place." I shook my head. I may have even smiled. Wanly, of course. My swift intelligence had enabled me to probe to the bottom of this thing. "Not me, Jeeves. Stiffy." "Sir?" "The hand that placed that helmet there was not mine, but that of S. Bing. She had it in her room. She feared lest a search might be instituted, and when I last saw her was trying to think of a safer spot. This is her idea of one." I sighed. How can you imagine a girl gets a mind like Stiffy's, Jeeves? Certainly the young lady is somewhat eccentric in her actions, sir. Eccentric? She could step straight into Colney Hatch and no questions asked. They would lay down the red carpet for her. The more the thoughts dwell on that young shrimp, the more the soul sickens in horror. One peers into the future and shudders at what one sees there. One has to face it, Jeeves. Stiffy, who is pure padded self from the foundations up, is about to marry Reverend H.P. Pinker, himself about as pronounced a goop as ever broke bread, and there is no reason to suppose, one has to face this too, that their union will not be blessed. There will, that is to say, ere long be little feet pattering about the home, and what one asks oneself is, just how safe will human life be in the vicinity of those feet, assuming, as one is forced to assume, that they will inherit the combined loopiness of two such parents. It is with a sort of tender pity, Jeeves, that I think of the nurses and the governesses, the private schoolmasters and public schoolmasters, who will likely take on the responsibility of looking after a blend of Stephanie Bing and Harold Pinker, little knowing that they're coming up against something hotter than mustard. However, I went on, abandoning these speculations. All this, though of absorbing interest, is not really germane to the issue. Contemplating that helmet, and bearing in mind the fact that the Oates-Bassett comedy duo will be arriving at any moment to start their search, what would you recommend? It is a little difficult to say, sir. A really effective hiding place for so bulky an object does not readily present itself. No, the damn thing does seem to fill the room, doesn't it? It unquestionably takes the eye, sir. Yes. The authorities wrought well when they shaped this helmet for Constable Oates. They aimed to finish him off impressively, not to give him something which would balance on top of his head like a peanut. And they succeeded. You couldn't hide a lid like this in an impenetrable jungle. Oh, well, I said, we will just have to see what tact and suavity will do. I wonder when these birds are going to arrive. I suppose we may expect them very shortly. Ah, that would be the hand of doom now, if I mistake not, Jeeves. But in assuming that the knocker who had just knocked on the door was Sir Watkin Bassett, I had erred. It was Stiffy's voice that spoke. "Bertie, let me in." There was nobody I was more anxious to see, but I did not immediately fling wide the gates. Prudence dictated a preliminary inquiry. "Have you got that bally dog of yours with you?" "No, he's being aired by the butler." "In that case, you may enter." When she did so, it was to find Bertram confronting her with folded arms and a hard look. She appeared, however, not to note my forbidding exterior. "Bertie, darling—" She broke off, checked by a fairly animal snarl from the Wooster lips. "Not so much of the Bertie, darling. I've just one thing to say to you, young stiffy, and it is this. Was it you that put that helmet in my suitcase?" "Of course it was. That's what I was coming to talk to you about. You remember I was trying to think of a good place. I racked the brain quite a bit, and then suddenly I got it." "And now I've got it." The acidity of my tone seemed to surprise her. She regarded me with girlish wonder, the wide-eyed kind. "But you don't mind, do you, Bertie, darling?" "But why? I thought you'd be glad to help me out." "Oh, yes," I said, and it was meant to sting. "I couldn't risk having Uncle Watkin find it in my room." "You preferred to have him find it in mine." "But how can he? He can't come searching your room." "He can't, eh?" "Of course not. You're his guest." "And you suppose that will cause him to hold his hand?" I smiled one of those bitter, sardonic smiles. "I think you are attributing to the old poison germ a niceness of feeling and a respect for the laws of hospitality which nothing in his record suggests that he possesses. You can take it from me that he definitely is going to search the room. And I imagine that the only reason he hasn't arrived already is that he's scouring the house for Gussie." "Gussie?" "He is at the moment chasing Gussie with a hunting crop. But a man cannot go on doing that indefinitely. Sooner or later he will give up, and then we shall have him here, complete with magnifying glass and bloodhounds." The gravity of the situation had at last impressed itself upon her. She uttered a squeak of dismay, and her eyes became a bit soup-platey. "Oh, Bertie, then I'm afraid I've put you in rather a spot." "That covers the facts like a dust sheet." "I'm sorry now I ever asked Harold to pinch the thing. It was a mistake. I admit it. Still, after all, even if Uncle Watkin does come here and find it, doesn't matter much, does it?" "Did you hear that, Jeeves?" "Yes, sir." "Thank you, Jeeves. What makes you suppose that I shall meekly assume the guilt and not blazon the truth forth to the world?" I wouldn't have supposed that her eyes could have widened any more, but they did, perceptibly. Another dismayed squeak escaped her. Indeed, such was its volume that it might be better to call it a squeal. "But Bertie!" "Well?" "Bertie, listen." "I'm listening." "Surely you will take the rap? You can't let Harold get it in the neck. You were telling me this afternoon that he would be unfrocked. I won't have him unfrocked. Where's he going to get if they unfrock him? That sort of thing gives a curate a frightful black eye. Why can't you say you did it? All it would mean is that you would be kicked out of the house, and I don't suppose you're so anxious to stay on, are you? Possibly you are not aware that your bally uncle is proposing to send the perpetrator of this outrage to chokey. Oh no, at the worst just a fine. Nothing of the kind. He specifically told me chokey. He didn't mean it. I expect there was... No, there was not a twinkle in his eye. Then that settles it. I can't have my precious angel Harold doing a stretch. How about your precious angel Bertram? But Harold's sensitive. So am I sensitive. Not half so sensitive as Harold. Bertie, surely you aren't going to be difficult about this? You're much too good a sport. Didn't you tell me once that the code of the Woosters was never let a pal down? She had found the talking point. People who appeal to the code of the Woosters rarely fail to touch a chord in Bertram. My iron front began to crumble. That's all very fine. Bertie, darling. Yes, I know. Oh, dash it all. Bertie. Oh, well. You will take the rap? I suppose so. She yodeled ecstatically, and I think that if I had not sidestepped, she would have flung her arms about my neck. Certainly she came leaping forward with some such purpose apparently in view. Foiled by my agility, she began to tear off a few steps of that spring dance to which she was so addicted. "Thank you, Bertie, darling. I knew you'd be sweet about it. I can't tell you how grateful I am, and how much I admire you. You remind me of Carter Patterson. No, that's not it. Nick Carter. No, not Nick Carter. Who does Mr. Wooster remind me of, Jeeves? Oh, Sidney Carton, miss. That's right, Sidney Carton. But he was small-time stuff compared with you, Bertie. And anyway, I expect we're getting the wind up unnecessarily. Why do we take it for granted that Uncle Watkin will find the helmet if he comes and searches the room? There are 100 places where you could hide it." And before I could say, "Name 3, she had pirouetted to the door and pirouetted out. I could hear her dying away in the distance with a song on her lips. My own, as I turned to Jeeves, were twisted in a bitter smile. "Women, Jeeves." "Yes, sir." "Well, Jeeves," I said, my hand stealing towards the decanter, "this is the end." "No, sir." I started with a violence that nearly unshipped my front uppers. "Not the end?" "No, sir." "You don't mean you have an idea?" "Yes, sir." "But you told me just now you hadn't." "Yes, sir, but since then I have been giving the matter some thought, and am now in a position to say Eureka." "Say what?" "Eureka, sir. Like Archimedes." "Did he say Eureka? I thought it was Shakespeare." "No, sir, Archimedes. What I would recommend is that you drop the helmet out of the window. It is most improbable that it will occur to Sir Watkin to search the exterior of the premises, and we shall be able to recover it at our leisure." He paused and stood listening. "Should this suggestion meet with your approval, sir, I feel that a certain haste would be advisable. I fancy I can hear the sound of approaching footsteps." He was right. The air was vibrant with their clumping. Assuming that a herd of bison was not making its way along the second-floor passage of Totley Towers, the enemy were upon us. With the nippiness of a lamb in the fold on observing the approach of the Assyrians, I snatched up the helmet, bounded to the window, and loosed the thing into the night. And scarcely had I done so when the door opened, and through it came, in the order named, Aunt Dahlia, wearing an amused and indulgent look, as if she were joining in some game to please the children, Pop Bassett in a purple dressing-gown, and Police Constable Oates, who was dabbing at his nose with a pocket handkerchief. "Sorry to disturb you, Bertie," said the aged relative courteously. "Not at all," I replied with equal suavity. "Is there something I can do for the multitude?" "Sir Watkin has some extraordinary idea into his head about wanting to search your room." "Search my room?" "I intend to search it from top to bottom," said old Bassett, looking very Bossier Street-like. I glanced at Aunt Dahlia, raising the eyebrows. "I don't understand. What's all this about?" She laughed indulgently. "You will scarcely believe it, Bertie, but he thinks the cow cream is here." "Is it missing?" "It's been stolen." "You don't say?" "Yes. Well. He's very upset about it." "I don't wonder. Most distressed. Poor old bloke." I replaced a kindly hand on Pop Bassett's shoulder. Probably the wrong thing to do, I could see, looking back, for it did not soothe. "I can do without your condolences, Mr. Wooster, and I should be glad if you would not refer to me as a bloke. I have every reason to believe that not only is my cow creamer in your possession, but Constable Oates's helmet as well." A cheery guffaw seemed in order. I uttered it. Aunt Dahlia came across with another. "How dashed absurd. Perfectly ridiculous. What on earth would I be doing with cow creamers? Or policemen's helmets? Quite. Did you ever hear such a weird idea?" "Never." "My dear old host," I said, "let us keep perfectly calm and cool and get all this straightened out. In the kindliest spirit, I must point out to you that you are on the verge, if not slightly past the verge, of making an ass of yourself. This sort of thing won't do, you know. You can't dash about accusing people of nameless crimes without a shadow of evidence." "I have all the evidence I require, Mr. Wooster." "That's what you think. And that, I maintain, is where you are making the floater of a lifetime. When was this modern Dutch gadget of yours abstracted?" He quivered beneath the thrust. pinkling at the tip of the nose. It is not modern Dutch. Well, we can thresh that out later. The point is, when did it leave the premises? It has not left the premises. Oh, that, again, is what you think. Well, when was it stolen? About 20 minutes ago. Oh, there you are. 20 minutes ago, I was up here in my room. This rattled him. I had thought it would. You were in your room? In my room. Alone? On the contrary, Jeeves was here. Who's Jeeves? Oh, don't you know Jeeves? Oh, this is Jeeves. Jeeves? Sir Watkin Bassett. And who may you be, my man? That's exactly what he is. My man. May I say my right-hand man? Thank you, sir. Not at all, Jeeves. Well-earned tribute. Pop Bassett's face was disfigured, if you could disfigure a face like his, by an ugly sneer. I regret, Mr. Wooster, that I am not prepared to accept as conclusive evidence of your innocence the unsupported word of your manservant. Unsupported, eh? Jeeves, go and page Mr. Spode. Tell him I want him to come and put a bit of stuffing into my alibi. Very good, sir. He shimmered away, and Pop Bassett seemed to swallow something hard and jagged. Was Roderick Spode with you? Certainly he was. Perhaps you will believe him. Yes, I would believe Roderick Spode. Oh, very well. He'll be here in a moment. He appeared to muse. I see. Well, apparently I was wrong then, supposing that you are concealing my cow creamer. It must have been purloined by somebody else. Outside job, if you ask me, said Aunt Dahlia. Perhaps the work of an international gang, I hazarded. Very likely. I expect it was all over the place that Sir Watkin had bought the thing. You remember Uncle Tom had been counting on getting it, and no doubt he told all the sort of people where it had gone, all sorts of people where it had gone. It wouldn't take long for the news to filter through to the international gangs. They keep their ear to the ground. Damn clever, those gangs, assented the aged relative. Pop Bassett seemed to me to wince a trifle at the mention of Uncle Tom's name. Guilty conscience doing its stuff, no doubt, gnawing, as his guilty consciences do. Well, we need not discuss the matter further, he said. As regards the cow creamer, I admit that you have established your case. We will now turn to Constable Oates's helmet. That, Mr. Wooster, I happen to know positively, is in your possession. Oh, yes? Yes. The constable received specific information on that point from an eyewitness. I will proceed, therefore, to search your room without delay. You really feel you want to? I do. I shrugged the shoulders. Very well, I said, very well. If that is the spirit in which you interpret the duties of a host, carry on. We invite inspection. I can only say that you appear to have extraordinary rummy views on making your guests comfortable over the weekend. Don't count on my coming here again. I had expressed the opinion to Jeeves that it would be entertaining to stand by and watch this blighter and his colleague ferret about, and so it proved. I don't know when I have extracted more solid amusement from anything. But all these good things have to come to an end at last. About 10 minutes later, it was plain that the bloodhounds were planning to call it off and pack up. To say that Pop Bassett was wry as he desisted from his efforts and turned to me would be to understate it. I appear to owe you an apology, Mr. Wooster, he said. Sir W. Bassett, I rejoined. You never spoke a truer word. And folding my arms and drawing myself up to my full height, I let him have it. The exact words of my harangue have, I'm sorry to say, escaped my memory. It is a pity that there was nobody taking them down in shorthand, for I'm not exaggerating when I say that I surpassed myself. Once or twice, when a bit lit at routs and revels, I have spoken with an eloquence which, rightly or wrongly, has won the plaudits of the Drones Club. But I don't think that I have ever quite reached the level to which I now soared. You could see the stuffing trickling out of old Bassett in great heaping handfuls. But as I rounded into my peroration, I suddenly noticed that I was failing to grip. He had ceased to listen. He was staring past me at something out of my range of vision. And so worth looking at did this spectacle, judging from his expression, appear to be, that I turned in order to take a deco. It was the butler. who had so riveted Sir Watkin Bassett's attention. He was standing in the doorway, holding in his right hand a silver salver, and on that salver was a policeman's helmet.